the show creator, Jesse Armstrong, is with us, everybody. And Jeremy Strong and Sarah Snook and Alexander Skarsgård cannot be here tonight. They are in production on, I hope it's okay to say, Jesse, a spin-off of Succession that nobody else here is in. A dangerous joke, I apologize. Welcome, everybody. It is an honor to be here with you. And Jesse, I will just get started. I have a question, which is, what was easier about the fourth season and what was harder about the fourth season?
Wow, yeah, good. You just watched the final episode?
They did, yes.
Just for context. I hope you enjoyed it.
I haven't. I'm halfway through season 2. So ideally, just with your answers.
Easier, harder. I guess you get into the rhythm of knowing the show. You know, you start enjoying writing. I think we always trusted this group of brilliant actors, but you grow more and more excited. I think about in some ways, like I don't know if this is true. It feels like we would write almost less and less. Like the third episode, I don't want to spoil it for you, but something dramatic happens in the season. And I love writing dialogue. I love language. The show is a bit about language and language getting debased, I think. But I think as a writer, one of the interesting things for me was to trust more and more and think, oh, could I cut that? Could I leave that to a look? What would that be like if there was nothing there and it was just left for the actors to do it between themselves on set? So I guess that got or easier or more exciting. And hard, you fear repetition, you fear sort of writing a parody of yourself, and yeah, you fear, especially in a show like Succession, which has this promise in the title of like you're going to find out kind of who done it, who gets to do it, that you're going to stretch the dough too thin, that you're going to start repeating yourselves, and that's why we made the decision that this was probably the time to do the last season.
Did you, this is sort of a question for everyone, at what part of the process do you, the actors, find out what is going to happen in the course of the season?
Jesse's always very lovely in that he sort of says, if you want to know, come and see me, and if you don't, that's fine too. And then some actors, I think, sort of go very quickly to you, don't they? And say, tell me everything. And some hold out, and some... I held out till like episode 5, I think.
But in the case of the famous or infamous episode 3, Mark and Jesse and the others warned us in sort of groups, little discrete groups, what was going to happen, right? About Logan.
Wasn't it a read-through? Didn't they?
There was a Zoom.
There was a read-through.
That's the best
You
way
weren't
to
invited,
get dramatic information.
There was a short Zoom arranged mid-hiatus,
That's right.
and it gathered a few of us.
Yeah.
And Jesse said, "What's that?"
Yeah, there was like a few of us at a time.
There's a few of us. There were a few groups, so he gathered us. And he said, so this is what's going to happen. And
After obviously me and Brian had had an interview and a chat, and then it felt like it was polite.
And
we had a nice...
Oh, we had a huge chat. It was wonderful. Yeah. It was a wonderful conversation. I remember that conversation well, like it was yesterday. No, it was really very fetching. I was given the ultimate short shrift, get the fuck off the set. We don't want to see you anymore. We've had enough of you. You've done enough damage to this whole fucking production. I'm killing you off. And that's it, okay? And I said, Jesse, that is absolutely fine. I'm very happy with that decision. I think it's one of the best decisions you've possibly made during this whole fucking production. So really, I'm very pleased. Very pleased. That was roughly the conversation, wasn't it, Jesse?
It was in the Ivy. It was over some nice food, and there wasn't so much rough talk. But Brian was very charming and saw immediately the dramatic possibilities.
No, it was fine.
Did you get nervous when you heard everyone else was having a Zoom, but Jesse was taking you out to lunch? You're like, oh no. Oh
No. Sorry, I'm pissing about here, so let me set it straight. No, it was very clear and absolutely right that what Jesse did. And I completely agreed, and I thought that's fine, because I still get paid. And that, at the end of the day, is the main thing, that one still gets paid. So there I am, happy in my demise, and these fuckers have to work their ass off.
Not only that, a lot of their work is being sad that you're gone.
Well, you know, people rang me up and said, we're not going to watch it anymore now that you're gone. And I said, you're so fucking stupid. I said, the show is called Succession. So you have to see Succession take place. And that quelled them.
I have a lot of questions about episode 3 because it correctly has received so much praise, deservedly so. But episode 2 is really special because that last scene in the karaoke bar, which of course you don't know when you're watching it, is the last scene where you're all together. And Alan, you have just a really special monologue moment where I feel like we find out more about how Connor sees himself than we ever did.
And Jesse gave me some teeth.
Yeah.
You know, because in a way he was sort of a punching bag for the siblings. You know, he'd say something and, you know, Kendall would say you're an idiot. And there was no like snappy rejoinder, you know. But then in that episode, I was given some things to say about how I feel and how I feel about them. And it was delightful.
Exceptionally well, too.
Kieran, interesting. I remember when I first watched the first episode of the show, and I think a lot of people had this thing of, oh, it's great, but they're so unlikable. Everybody in it is so unlikable. And I heard some people say, I'm not sure I can watch these unlikable characters. And then this fascinating thing happened, which is, I don't think they're good people I want to be friends with, but I cared about every one of them. And I had great empathy for every one of them. With you and with Roman, especially the first episode where it ends with you being just so horrible. And yet when the show ends and we see you, I feel like everybody felt maybe a little bit of relief and maybe that you had gone through a journey. Did you, when you're playing someone like Roman, did you have to care about him deeply?
I don't know. Care. I don't know. How do you answer that? Do you care about yourself? I don't know.
Deeply. Yes, thank you for asking.
Yeah,
I have a long answer about this. And
that was a very long question. So I was like, where's it going?
I'm sorry.
So,
I do ask sometimes too
you
long.
were talking about the characters being unlikable was directed at me for some reason.
But essentially
Probably
because
just
I
my voice
liked
or
you at
face.
the end.
Oh, okay. I got nowhere to go with this.
All right.
He got a fascist elected just 2 episodes before. So
I know, and I'm still
nearly.
So, Mark, I heard. I'm going to move on. I'm going to let you talk. Mark, episode 3. I read a lot about how a great much of that was shot in one take, and why did you make that decision? And how did that feel when you were doing it? How did it feel different? How did it accomplish? How did it accomplish the things you set out to do with that decision?
All right, that's meaty. Thank you. Why? Because I think it was called Scene 11 in the script. There was this kind of 28 or big chunk of work which was so intense from start to finish, from when these guys discovered that Logan's in trouble, through to a kind of partial acceptance of that when the characters move up to another deck of the ship. And it was so continuous emotionally and in the flow of it that it just begged to be done without stopping, and these actors are just extraordinary at getting onto a certain plane of performance, and you don't want to interrupt that for anything. The issue was that, you know, we shoot on 35mm and the camera runs out after 10 minutes. So our brilliant crew basically devised a way to hide camera rolls and indeed a camera at different levels, like almost like some kind of computer game, that they could do these sneaky reloads on so we could run continuously for half an hour. And so we did. The cast took an hour or two, and at the end of our time shooting on the boat, they went through it. They were perfect and in one take, and it was incredibly intense. I was stood next to Jesse as ever by the monitor, and I was pretty much shaking. And by the time we got to the end of the sequence and called cut, I felt both incredibly drained by what I'd just seen and more elated, I think, than I've ever been on any set anywhere. It was what they achieved in that half hour. Well, you see it in the episode. It was just quite incredible.
What I found really cool about that was we had talked about a week or so before about the possibility of doing it in one take. And then did we shoot that scene over a couple of days, or was that one day we did it and then we ran it?
No, we shot it kind of piecemeal. We had to break it up.
But was we did piecemeal over one day, or was that like over 2 or 3?
No, I think it was over a couple of days because I had all that kind of 40 pages to do on the boat before we went for the single take.
And when we did the single take, I would have thought at that point you would have planned everything out. But instead, you were like, okay, you said the actors took an hour or two for a break. But I remember coming onto the boat, and you were sitting on the floor with a piece of paper and a pencil with the camera crew around you, and Christo and Pat, and just like actually in real time trying to figure out how to do this thing. I was like, you had weeks.
Yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
It was brilliant. Loved it.
I would imagine a crew like yours that's been working on the show as long as the cast here as well, they must have found that a thrilling challenge as well.
Yeah, the buzz was crazy. It was so everybody was buzzing, and it really was. And if you've seen the episode, when you see the episode, you'll see that they're really good in it. So it was really worth it. And there was this ballet that we evolved with the camera operators, with the boom op, and because of that free roaming, no blocking kind of sense, to let them explore and be spontaneous. And you never have to do the same thing twice. This whole ethos that we built over the seasons, and so naturally the crew evolved with that, and it was a lovely way to make television.
Yeah, it certainly looked lovely on camera. I want to ask you two down there. It was very sweet last night, Matthew, when you thanked Sarah for being your on-screen wife, and then you said you had another on-screen wife, which was Nicholas. And a really interesting thing happened when I watched the show.
But,
yeah. Exactly, but a husband. I'm sorry.
I'm a guy.
A guy. But I think when you're married and you see a spousal relationship on camera, you bring a little bit of your own marriage into it. And yet none of us have, I feel like, a relationship with our wife's cousin, Greg. So that was this unique thing that when it started, I had no prediction of where it was going to go. I couldn't put my hands on it. And then all of a sudden I just realized at some point during the show, oh my God, this is the most, insane friendship. And it kind of happened while I wasn't paying attention. Like, how much did you two sort of know what was happening or know where it was going to go, that you were going to become this beloved pair?
We didn't really know. I mean, the pilot episode was a good indicator of that something was going to be interesting and odd and ugly a little bit, but interesting when I in the ball game, and I'm immediately messing, and this very sort of seemingly pliant guy suddenly turns on this cousin from out of town, who he perceives to be a threat, and it was really horrible, So we thought, oh, this will be interesting. But we didn't really plan anything. We just sort of, followed the stage directions, and Tom throws water bottles at Greg's head. Tom kisses Greg.
On the forehead, softly. It didn't say softly in the script, but it ended up soft as hell. No, I guess we didn't know. I mean, Jesse didn't tell us this is the trajectory of Greg or Tom or that relationship or any of us really when we were shooting the pilot. We did just have a couple moments where we were like sniffing each other out, and I think it was enough to kick something off. And for some reason, I don't know, we're in such different places in the hierarchy, and yet there's something there like.
And it's nice to think, Jesse hinted at this earlier, that actually one of the lovely things about doing long-form TV, and you've got time for the writers and the actors to develop a sort of symbiosis, and maybe the writers see things which they hadn't written and then expand on it, and vice versa. And so certainly that happened with you two, your two characters. But I think that's one of the lovely things about it, I think.
It is for one of the most intensely, brilliantly verbal shows I've ever seen. I do feel like there were these great moments of physical comedy. You mentioned throwing a water bottle, and also you guys fighting in the bathroom, which was like a very real but also deeply funny fight scene. How much choreography or thought did you guys put into it ahead of time?
None.
Not really any.
We were like, should we go for it? We were like, yeah. There was a stunt guy.
There was a stunt guy,
like,
but
okay, you don't need me. Yeah.
it's like a 5x5 room. Like we're not gonna get super hurt on these fake toilets and fake. It would be great if they were smashable, so things were sort of breaking more in the room. But it was I hit you pretty good a few times.
Yeah.
I was there. I was watching in the monitor, which was probably like a whole room away, and I could hear that slap from very far away.
You only get one chance to slap an actor sometimes. And you don't know if there's going to be another take scene. Luckily, there were 4. So I kept getting to give it to him. Yeah.
It was exactly how I wanted those two characters to fight. They looked very much like they'd never done it before, but really wanted to do it.
The only preparation we ever really did before a scene was a couple of times we would meet like the day before or the night before we had a scene which we were really worried about breaking up in or laughing and irretrievably laughing, and we'd meet and run the lines to try and get giggles out of our system.
Yeah, you guys were kind of the worst.
Whatever you were doing, it wasn't working.
We would run it so many times in the morning too. You don't want it to get old, but you don't want to laugh. We just want to get through it.
Really unprofessional.
We would actually schedule things. If there was a stage direction that said they make eye contact, their faces are close, I think, okay, that's 2 more hours.
More film. Need more film.
Like Stephen Root's giving a speech, and there's a whole room full of actors, and you guys just can't stop laughing, and it kind of ruined the take. And then the next one, you really tried to keep it together, and I broke because I was looking at the back of your necks turn red.
Oh,
as you were just shivering.
This was at the funeral. This was at the wake.
Yes, the wake.
This was at the wake. Yeah.
He's giving this great speech. So many everyone's on camera, and you guys.
Do you remember why?
Red. What was the joke?
It was one of your. It was the dialogue. It's Jesse's fault. Really.
It was there was the like. Something my dick, or like, remember what was that thing? Like
Unforgettable words.
Mold-
Something my dick. It sounds like me.
By the way, you just want ask ChatGPT to write a Succession script.
Something my dick.
But there was also me trying to try and hit on Hiam's character on Marsha, and so that was a fun part where I'd be like, watch this. And he
on the wither.
Yeah. That was fun.
Jay, I have a question for you. I sometimes felt like Jerry was standing in for the audience. Like I felt like you were watching the Roy family in the way that we would maybe perceive them, which was you were completely aware of who everybody was. Is that who you felt she was? That she kind of saw them maybe more clearly than anyone else?
Yeah, definitely. I think she I mean, I think she had decades to craft, the poker face. But I think every time that she could, roll her eyes, out of view, she jumped on it. I do think that was a stand-in for the audience. Yeah.
And how taken aback were you two where you realized where the Roman and Jerry relationship was going to go?
I was quite taken aback.
I was pleased. Just for some reason that just started happening, where I just couldn't stop intensely flirting with Jerry because it just really seemed to annoy you. So I would just go up and flirt with you whenever I could.
Yeah.
Get away.
No, I think maybe that was one of those instances too, where then the writers like to embrace that instinct and wrote for us to do that.
Yeah, that one took some time. With I was going to say this earlier, the thing on the softball field, I remember that I was on the other side of the field and we hadn't rehearsed that or talked about it, and I guess whatever part of the sequence had been done, I remember Adam McKay shouting with his little megaphone, like, guys, go to your part. and the cameras just swung around, and you guys did that, and that was when you were like, kiss me, will you kiss me? And the moment I saw it, I was like, oh, that's a thing. It was like right there, right away. That was one of the first days of shooting. So, but ours,
we definitely never rehearsed that. Yeah, some of those things just happened naturally.
Yeah.
In this, and because of this guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Just sets us up well.
And I'm positive the one in the pilot, because in my memory, is the one that we did not rehearse that very first take. Because it's very awkward the way you guys are kind of walking towards each other and away from each other.
I don't think we ever rehearsed it.
No.
But it was making me laugh. It was like,
They were. We saw Brian. We saw Logan a couple times after he passed away, and things he'd recorded beforehand.
I saw that myself the other day, and I thought it wasn't me. Was that AI?
Plane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hologram.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. That's not me. Who is that?
It's actually in fact it's your head but a stand-in's body.
Interesting.
So we put a female body. Do you remember that day when
It was a shot from me, and I thought, I don't remember, because I was hardly there. In fact, I was never there. I think there might be one shot of my ear, maybe.
Yeah.
It was such strenuous work.
Do you remember that day when I tripped you up and you fell down?
Yeah.
That was it. We grabbed it.
It is the.
You did that when you took it. You wanted to get a shot. I see.
When we see the old footage of Logan and the kids are watching it, you obviously, I'm assuming you shoot that knowing it's a performance for the kids to see after you passed away.
Yeah.
Does that change how you approach it at all?
No, I mean, the thing was that it's such a shock. I mean, even for me it was a shock in a way. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but it was a shock the way it happened. I just, you never see him again, virtually. So I just thought it was bold. I thought it was bold. I thought that's bold, and of course the ramifications were even, the fact that people were not happy that it all happened, and some people were. I thought it was brilliant. I just thought, wow, that's so brave and so bold and so brilliant to do it that way, and have them, have the family being that discussion, that they have on the phone and trying to talk to me and all that. I just thought that was incredible.
I want to ask a writer's room question, because there are things in plot points in Succession that are so deeply funny, like the idea of Kendall's name being, you can't tell if it's crossed out or underlined, which is very funny, and then what's wonderful about it is that it's played to its dramatic heights. It's not comic after that. When that comes up in the room, I don't know who came up with it, but do you know right away, oh, this is fantastic?
I think, sometimes there are bits where you're like, that's got to go in, we've got to get that in. What's interesting, I guess, about that question is that part of the job of the room is to sift between those ideas which feel so appealing and like, oh, I'd love to do that. And some of those can be kind of false friends that you get married to, and they could take you down a route that's not going to help the show, and you can get, potentially you can get married or distracted by those pieces. Other pieces like that, underlined or crossed out, I think that's going to fit. Even if it doesn't fit where you thought it was going to fit, it's probably going to fit somewhere, and maybe it's going to be an element you can build a part of an episode around. So I think, yes, you do get very excited. I remember us getting so excited about Roman seeing the rocket explode in the first season. Like, this is going to be, we were pretty sure it would work, because there's a lot of comedy writers in the room. And I wanted to put it I wanted to have it on big screen at the wedding, and John Brown and a couple of the other writers convinced me that this was completely insane, anyone having a rocket launch as a feature of their wedding. But sometimes you get elements like that you get really, really married to, and sometimes you do have to lose them, but that's one that was pretty safe, because it fitted right into the heart of the episode.
I would imagine there are those ideas that are so great and so audacious for a show that sort of thrives on these audacious moments, but then you do have to talk it down. How much is the room trying to just nail this tone that is so unique and specific to Succession and make sure that it doesn't get too, I don't know, cute or too proud of itself?
Yeah, I think the room is a good leveler. We even ourselves, each other's out, and we don't spend too much time on stuff which would never happen. Often what we have to do is take something, we're heavily research based, and the whole part of the first, of the beginning of season 3, where Logan and his entourage are in the Balkans, that bit was really inspired by that story of the businessman who I'm going to blank on his name, who was French, Japanese, Skarsgård, and he got taken into custody in Japan, and there's a hugely, very high conviction rate, and so his team smuggled him out of Japan to Lebanon inside a music box, and that really happened, to a leading industrialist. And so that was like, well, maybe we could get Logan in a box, and probably would have broken the show if we got got Jay getting Brian to go into a box and sealing him up. Everyone would be like, okay, this show's jumped the shark, like that would ever happen. So a lot of the time, the room is like, that's a great feeling or a area, but if we do that version, it's going to blow it up, but can we take that feeling and infuse it through an episode?
Well, in the episode with the rocket exploding,
it would be fun though to have Brian in a box with Jerry tapping down.
Well, certainly him coming out of the box is, I think, how the sequel series starts.
No, but you had Shiv explaining to Roman why she wasn't going to have a rocket ship exploding on a big screen, and I guess that's the writers telling you, Jesse, we can't. That's interesting.
Alan, do you feel in the end that Connor was satisfied with how things ended for him?
I don't have a lot of hope for that marriage.
Yeah.
I mean,
the saddest thing is I have more hope for that one than any of the others.
No, they were the marital stars of Succession, but she was so counting on him going to Europe and being a diplomat, so she would have at least 6 months a year in New York by herself, in that big apartment. So the thing is, there is no Connor story without Willa. Not really, because he'd just be like a sad guy in the desert with his collection of historical penises. And so she's hope, she's everything, she's possibilities, so he will always try to see the sunny side of the situation, even, when she's serving him with papers.
This show is a drama. Jesse, Mark, your backgrounds, I know you got started in comedy, and there's obviously a different way you shoot comedy, and there's so many funny lines in this show, and yet you have to catch it without the way that you would shoot it. How hard was it to get a natural camera angle on lines that were written to really land like punchlines without making it feel like a sitcom?
First of all, because of directing comedy, I think it was pretty instinctive for me to make sure the camera was going to be somewhere where we could capture the line in a satisfying way, but also not too close on the eye line where it felt like a sitcom, position, that particular grammar. And that really just happened instinctively, I think, Seth.
Yeah.
Well, instinctively, and also Mark is, is illustrious US career, but he's directed some of the greatest British sitcoms of all time, and so comedy inside out, and so.
I never directed Hello.
Oh, you never directed Hello. Oh, sorry, I got that wrong.
But he knows comedy inside out, and so what feels instinctive to you is the product of a lot of learning.
Thank you.
Could anyone, and I don't want to put you on the spot, it doesn't have to be your character, but could you tell me any of your favorite lines? Do you have one, Brian?
Yeah. I think it's the best line of the show. I love you, but you're not serious people.
Yeah.
I think that was a brilliant line. I mean, I didn't even know how brilliant it was at the time, but now the ramification, and it's just, and I kept thinking, why didn't he do that in episode 1 of the first series? Why didn't he just accept that they're a bunch of wazzicks and it's never going to happen?
I like the something my dick.
Yeah, that was. I don't remember all of it either, but I like.
That's pretty much the.
Yeah.
I like the one. It's one of mine, but is I'm absorbing the idea that Shiv wants to freeze the babies or her eggs, or no, and I say that's 10 years. That's like 2.5 Olympics. where?
You're right. It's a real.
And he's deathly serious.
Your capacious bag monologue was pretty special, wasn't it?
It's very good. Raised a lot of money, the Capacious Bag, the charity.
I like when Jerry, when Tom, when you say you're grieving, and she says you're sick with grief. I'm going to paraphrase, but you should put down your fish taco. You're getting melancholy or something? Yeah, you're covering it with melancholy.
I'm sick with grief.
When did you decide, when in the process did you decide it would be Tom?
I think I sometimes have given answers to this that I don't know, but I'm curious if Matthew agrees. I think occasionally in previous seasons, I've occasionally said, "Oh, do you remember in this scene, you know, especially when it's getting pretty funny, or you were going, there was something with potentially low status of like, remember he could do it." I think it was percolating in my mind certainly strongly in last season, and was always a possibility from.
Whenever you'd said that to me, it hadn't occurred to me that I just thought I was being too hammy or being too big, and you would say, "Oh, remember?" Oh no. But there was some stuff that Tom was. He was so daft, and actually he is running a big sizable wing of Waystar Royco. He was running the TV department, wasn't he, at the time?
It's funny, I got it. I always thought at the end of season 3, that Logan already in his mind that it was going to be Tom. And I thought that right from the thing that happens that Logan seriously looks for is an act of kindness. And there was never an act of kindness until he helped me at the UTI. And from that point on, I considered him in an entirely different way. And I thought that seemed to me organically happened, and also with Alexander's character, Marsden. You know, I just got the vision of it right at the end of. I remember that sitting there in where we were in northern Italy, on Lake Como, and with Matthew, and I thought, Alexander rather, and I thought, yeah, I can see where this could go.
A lot of it's a really weird question as well. Like, when did you decide? Like, specifically, we decided, I guess, at the end of last season and the beginning of this one. I remember talking to the writers' room and saying this. I think this is what should happen, and let's agree on it. But also, I think it had been brewing for ages, and a lot of what you do in a show and especially in a writer's room, I guess, is it's like a game of chess. Of like, you don't necessarily know how you're going to want it to specifically play out, but it's like building a position of strength where you've got lots of options, so all your options are good. And like, you know, we discussed, could it be Roman? Could it be Kendall? Could Shiv come through? And would those shapes be really true and interesting? While I think that I had been thinking, I think Tom is the one that's, because of some of those relationships and connections, and also, you know, we're heavily research based, and you know, it was something that happened with some of the Redstone's organisation, Philip Doman coming through, and one of those more grey figures rather than a child.
How, Kieran, how many times did you shoot the final scene with the three of you in the boardroom?
I don't recall. I don't know. It wasn't that. That again was. You mean the one where Kendall's saying? Yeah. That's me. And it was one of those. I know we didn't really rehearse. We did have to talk it out because in the script, if I'm right, there was supposed to be like a shoving match between Shiv and Kendall, right? But Sarah was pretty heavily pregnant, and we needed to talk that out. But we didn't. It was sort of in between having to have like a coordinator discuss that and us wanting to not rehearse it. And I remember saying, well, I think my instinct would be to stop him from touching you anyway. But I don't. Do you remember how many times we did it? I feel like 3.
In terms of the performance elements of it, because we always start on the close coverage. Basically, we kind of do the opposite of classic shooting, where you kind of start wider and then get closer. We go the other way. We go right into performance, and until we have all that, and maybe 3, maybe 4, including a freebie. And then we pulled back for a wider pass. Maybe it wasn't very many because you were just so on it. Everybody was so intense that there just wasn't a need to.
I haven't seen it yet, actually.
Is that true? Really?
I haven't seen the last episode yet. But the which wasn't on purpose. I was in Poland and I couldn't sign into my Max account.
So it's an app issue.
It was an app issue. In Poland, I did that. And then went on vacation. Then after that, I was like, that was like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
No, I want to go back and see it. But there were like 3 takes where Jeremy and I ended up on the floor I don't know what ended up, but there was one time where I was on top of him and I had him in a proper good choke, like a guillotine, like I had you in last night for like 4
But
minutes.
I didn't tap.
No, you did not.
I got some tap.
No, you didn't. I got some great pictures of him standing over my carcass.
He tried to surprise me with a chokehold at 6 a.m. as a celebration for him winning Best Actor.
The picture is actually him with holding me by the throat and holding my Emmy.
Because I didn't tap. Yeah.
Still have it? Yeah, but there was another one. Like then the next take, Jeremy ended up on top of me and just started punching me in the stomach. And the first one actually, he made some really good contact, and I think then he was like, "Oh shit," and then started giving me fake ones. But the first one got me in the ribs really good.
Yeah, we used that one because you looked really weak.
Yeah.
It was such Jesse. It was such an intense scene, and I think as everybody's watching it knowing it's the last episode, and you're just taking it all in. It took me 3 days before I realized eldest boy was the fucking funniest phrasing. Because it doesn't read like comedy when he said it, and then I was like, wait, he didn't say oldest son. He said eldest boy. That is fucking. I will live 1,000,000 years and never write anything that good. Did you know? You had to know when it was eldest boy that it was gold.
I don't think so. I think that's just what the phrase that occurred to me. They're really. We watched. Where did we watch a bit of that scene? Maybe in some situation, really isolated. Maybe it was at an awards thing, and there was a lot of laughter in the audience. And it's very curious how those things can play, because I think when I've seen it played in context, there's not a lot of laughter during it. And it's one of the things about the show, which is that it's got an unusual tone, which there are jokes in there, and it's like a sitcom joke. I think Shiv asks him about him killing someone, and he says something equivocal, and she's like, "What? You've killed so many people you don't even remember." And
he says, "Which?"
Yeah, right. That's basically a sitcom, but played with the intensity that anyway, it depends how you look at it, right? If you watch it in isolation, you can find it funny. I don't think when you watch the run of it, it's that funny. Well, certainly the first time, then maybe you can watch it and see.
That's what I mean. It was like a time bomb joke. And again, obviously, it speaks to the performance that you realize nobody's trying to make a joke in that scene.
No, and it would die if they were, which is one of the reasons all these people are so brilliant, is they can feel comedy, they know where it is, but the performances are always completely committed, and that makes it both, I think, enjoyable to watch, but there's that level of that's available to you to enjoy comedy as well.
What I would imagine one of the trickier things, and again, easier thing, you know your cast, you start writing to their strengths, the audience has this real expectation, but also, you must have felt the burden, all of you, of knowing it was the last season, knowing it was this beloved show. How did it feel for all of you? Anyone can answer, like starting this year knowing it was the last one and knowing sort of everyone's eyes were going to be so excited to see.
We didn't know.
100% no.
Did not know.
Even after the table read for the last episode, that's when we found out.
for sure.
Yeah.
I don't understand what you didn't know. Were you fucking dense or something? Jesus Christ, you know, it was so fucking obvious. You know. We're going to finish. And I go, oh, we didn't know. You know, we went to the last read-through and we thought, oh, maybe there's still life, yeah.
You're so different than Logan in real life.
But it's just ridiculous.
So wait, it dawned on you all at the table read.
No, I didn't. Like the chess, like the context. I guess it's like the chess thing. I hope I tried to give people the sense, and certainly, you know, when we told everyone else about episode 3, from that point on, it was like, and I think this might well be it. However, we wanted to leave a little bit of creative freedom, because we do rewrite all the way through. That we could leave that escape door, and maybe that was psychological because it was really, really hard actually ending it. Partly it was creative because it was like we need the possibility of escape almost to commit to the end, and partly maybe it was also to help performance to not feel like this is a cut and dry thing where there's no more possibility. And you know, I don't know, that may have had its pluses and minuses for leaving people. I just hope it didn't leave people feeling unsteady, because that's not the intention, is to be honest. But
No, it didn't do that, but I remember at the start of the season you told me what was going to happen throughout the whole season, and I said, and then Madsen gets the company, you told me, and I said, does the question get answered, Succession? You said, yeah, Tom, but it's shitty. Because I remember how you said it, and I said, well, that sounds like that's the end of the show, and you went, yeah, but, and then you like threw out 3 ideas for what a season 5 could be that all sounded really interesting to me.
Same.
Yeah, but I do remember thinking, okay, we don't know, because you didn't know until you'd written the last episode, I guess. You told us once you had made the decision, so I knew it was always possible, but I think when we were shooting the whole season, I personally felt like it was the last.
Yeah, we all felt like it probably was, but there was always...
Sarah was very sure it was going to go, I remember the thought.
Really?
Yeah, she was pretty certain. I remember that. I forget what her reasoning was behind that. She's not here, so her on class now. I feel bad. But, you know.
Well, that's settled. Season 5.
There you go. Let's do it.
did you write any of those great ideas down? Because I don't think I have.
How, Mark, how much time passed between the sort of Barbados, all the kids getting along scene and the final scene, and actual shooting days?
In shooting days, we normally we go to great lengths to shoot chronologically, particularly when there's such an emotional arc and quite a tight timeline for the episode. In this case, just purely financially, we had to shoot Barbados last. We had to shoot out the new work, and so we basically stage managed the schedule so that we could have an illusion of a happy ending, so that we could shoot the meal fit for a king scene in the kitchen as the very last scene that we shot on the show, which was joyful to me. I loved it, with all the emotion and of doing that. The fact that we could have these 3 siblings having a really fun time, that was a real treat.
That's fantastic. What about the last scene in the car with Sarah? What was emotionally? How did that feel?
Great, very, very. But Jesse wrote the most beautiful last few pages of that episode, and he you don't mind me saying that, but you described Shiv and Tom being transported like 2 bombs, and they've reached a sort of accommodation. It's much more beautiful than I've described it, but it's really...
Two unexploded bombs being transported with great care, wasn't
Exactly,
it?
yeah. And so for Sarah and I, it was very straightforward to do and very simple. And the hand that Tom offers was just in the stage directions. I didn't do anything else. I just did what it said in the script.
Very simple to do if you're one of the best actors of your generation.
I'm sorry. I have to catch a plane at 11 o'clock. No, I'm serious.
I believe you.
And it's 9:15, and...
Where are you off to?
I'm New York.
Okay.
So I'm sorry about that, but I've got a hell of a lot of stuff that I'm doing tomorrow. So
Yeah.
Forgive me. But I was told I'd be through by 9.
Boxed or unboxed?
Yeah, boxed.
Well, yeah. Should we wrap it up then?
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we're almost done. Anyways, we did say we would go to 9:15. Look, Brian's a man of his word.
Oh, no, well, they didn't tell me. I wish they had. I mean, I would have made other arrangements.
No, it's now. You're right. I'm sorry. I feel like I've done a bad job.
No, Jesus Christ, Seth, don't be so fucking angry. Really, honestly.
I feel like a Roy kid. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for coming one more time for this